Oh, hello again YouTube, and welcome to the Inside of My Head, Stone Age edition. And I have my mascot ready right here, so you know it's the Stone Age we are talking about today. And actually I couldn't help my, I'm all, fuck. I have been washing and cleaning up my hammer. I've also I really don't remember the word for it. Well, whatever. I've been making it look good and look shiny again. So it's ready to stand under the camera and to not be seen anymore in this video. However, today's topic is animals in the Stone Age. Because that's actually interesting and more interesting than the other stuff I was thinking about. Maybe I still do the other stuff I think about the Stone Age, but I at least do this one first. So, which animals lived in the Stone Age? Well, humans, apes, end of story. Good night. Well, also other animals, and sometimes it's quite fun to think about the other animals too, because of course there were other apes than us, first and foremost, and in most of the Stone Age there was actually also other hominids than us, aka other humans or human-like apes. So we had the Neanderthals and the Homo erectus, the two most famous one. That's not us Homo sapiens, of course. Actually, Homo neanderthalensis is actually kind of more popular. Well, not the scientific, but Neanderthals, like you can also call them, the short term or whatever you can call it. They're probably even more popular than us because not everyone know that Homo sapiens. I actually bet that most people don't know that Homo sapiens is us. At least they will confuse us with Homo erectus because both names are like equally popular. So which one is us and which one was the other one? However, we have to. It's already going good. We have actually lived all us three hominids at the same time. There was actually a point in time where we lived 5 hominids at the same time. So it's not like we evolved to human and that's it. There have been other hominids at the same time and they have died out before us. Thankfully. Or something. I'm just happy I'm one of the survivors from the Stone Age. So there were also other apes that was not that much evolved. There were actually gorillas and orangutans at that point. And actually there was a very big orangutan. Actually the biggest ape in the Stone Age was actually ancestor to the orangutan. I think it was called Gigantus something. I don't remember. That's annoying. I can probably find it quite fast actually. So I'm googling a little bit. But today the gorilla is the biggest of all apes on Earth. And the orangutan is actually number 2, I believe, on that list. But in the Stone Age it was the other way around. Then the orangutan was actually bigger than the gorilla. And I really like that fact, or love it actually, because I love gorillas. I think it's the nicest ape on the planet. And it was called Gigantopithecus. And that actually makes sense because a lot of, or it's not Theseus, it's Pitheus because there was no H, so Pitheus, Pitheus, Gigantopithecus. Oh my, these Latin. Gigantopiphasus. It's called Gigantopiphasus. And that makes sense because these Piphasus, or Piphi, at least the Piphi part, is used a lot for apes and even for some hominids. So that makes sense. That's some ape. Something in the middle of that bird means ape, at least. So we have that one. And then we had a lot of the other apes we have today, and if not, then we have the prehistoric version of that ape that was normally just a bigger version, and for some of them a smaller version than the one we have today. So quite close, not so much other stuff to talk about there. Then we also have a lot of other exciting animals. And to talk about animals we don't have today and don't really know that well today is the mammoth, very famous from the Stone Age. I think everybody knows the mammoth. And I think it's also quite famous that they come from the Stone Age, and I think most people believe that it exists on the same time as humans, or at least at the same time as some prehistoric human-like creature. But it actually existed along us humans. I believe the mammoth died out around 10,000 years ago, or 10,000 BC, something between there at least. So that means that for most of human, like real human, like Homo sapiens history, there have been mammoths. And again, Homo sapiens has been here since 330,000 years ago. So that means that for 320,000 of these years, there have been mammoths. That's 99% of the time. 99% of humans' time on Earth, there have been mammoths around us. That's amazing to think about. I think people believe today that we have only coexisted with mammoths in a short period of time, but no, that's not true. Mammoths have only been extinct for a short period of time. And probably because of us, because we hunted mammoths a lot in the Stone Age, actually. At least in some parts of the Stone Age, because we all, of course, not the easiest animal to hunt, so not the first one to start with. So we have to become good hunters before we did that. So it's probably kind of the last 100,000 years of the Stone Age, I would guess, or at least the last 50,000 years. We hunted the mammoths. But when I'm talking about mammoths, and if you don't know a lot about mammoths, but only know that it's kind of an elephant, but don't know how it looks, then I can tell you that it's kind of just a hairy elephant, and is often portrayed as an really brown colored hairy elephant. I really like that color, and I hope that's true and it's not like black or something. But I'm not sure we have any evidence of the hair color. I've heard a lot of stories about the color of ancient animals is actually just for fun, kind of to make it some color. Just because you cannot really, well, you could draw the outline of an animal and not color it, but that's very boring. So they just kind of choose the color they think fits the best in the moment they drew up the animal. So for most animal, it's rather just a coincidence. Not really a coincidence, because not a coincidence together with anything. But it's not on purpose. The color is just a random color, is what I'm trying to say on most animals. And there have been some talk about that the coloring of the dinosaurs has been all wrong, because now we are beginning to get some maybe evidence, you can call it, about the color of the dinosaurs. We're still not sure about the color of the dinosaurs, but we have at least something pointing in the direction of how they could have been colored. I'm not sure about the mammoth because the dinosaurs are like died extinct millions of years ago, some more than 100 million years ago, and the mammoth is from like 10,000 years ago, so like 10,000 times as long ago the dinosaurs died out. So just because we don't know which color they have, maybe we know which color the mammoth have. Something I'm not sure it was brown, but there's a chance that we know and at least believe the most that it was brown, and that's again me thinking way too much and talking all around it and don't want to say something about something if I'm not sure about it. But what I was trying to say before I was talking about color and stuff was when I'm talking about the mammoth, I should actually talk about an animal not many people know existed, and I didn't even knew it existed before, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago or something. And well, that's also kind of a long time, but I'm just mean. I didn't knew it all my life. I knew the mammoth since I was like 5 or something. So I have known about the mammoth for 20 years or something. So it's nothing compared to that. But the animal I'm talking about is the ancestor to the rhinos. And if you should just think for yourself, if there was an ancestor to the rhino, how will it look like? Well, why did the mammoth have hair? That was actually something the elephant, as we can call it, well, the genes of the elephants are at least the same as the mammoth. So if we just call the type of animal for elephants and call the specific animal with hair on for mammoth, then we could say that why did the elephants get hairy? Well, that maybe because it gets cold. And it did that in the Ice Age, so therefore mammoth started to exist in the first of the Ice Ages of the Stone Age. And what is elephants made of? Well, some kind of skin. And what is rhinos made of? Well, kind of the same skin. Where do they live? Kind of the same place. Not always, but close enough. So why should the rhinos not get hairy when the Ice Age came? Well, there's not any not in that, because that what happens, the rhino got hairy. And as the pictures we make of the ancestor to the rhino are telling us it's exactly same color as the mammoth. But again, that can just be like creative inspiration they have taken from the mammoth and just color the rhino in the same color. But it makes sense, because why not? Again, they have the same color skin today, so why shouldn't they have the same color hair back then? So, but I find it very interesting that the rhino have had hair at some point, and I think it looks so good. I like the look of the mammoth better than the elephants, but imagine that the rhinos with hair look so much better than the rhinos without, and even better than the mammoth. I really like them. They are an exceptional animal, very nice animal, and of course they were also bigger. At least some of the species back then were bigger than the biggest species we have today. So imagine this enormous, oversized rhino with hair, brown hair, with British brown hair. I'm really fascinated with that animal. Also, I believe that most rhinos today have 2 horns, if not every rhino today. I think some rhinos has got extinct lately. So I believe all of them have 2 horns now. But they have, throughout history, they have lived rhinos with 1 and 3 horns too. And depending on what you define as rhinos, they have lived rhinos with more horns too, and horns in another way also. Like the Triceratop, like the dinosaur, the Triceratops died out like 225 million years ago, I believe it was. And that one was the one, that's where the word tri in Triceratops came from. It mainly just means a three-horned animal, something. And that's because it had three horns, of course, and it had them in like a triangle. So it had one close to the nose and then two up in the forehead, you can call it. Why shouldn't we call that? It makes sense to call that on an animal, on dinosaur too. It's a bird that just makes sense, so let's call it forehead. And I've always seen that animal as an ancestor to the rhino. And it kind of maybe is. Some people some scientists are talking about the dinosaurs are closer related to the birds of today than any other thing. And also that the dinosaurs just went extinct from one day to another back then. Also not on the same time. It was on different times, which are also a very good reason that the meteor theory is wrong, because not all dinosaurs died out on the same time. Actually, really none of what I have seen. I've seen dinosaurs die from 100 million years ago to not even. I have seen there's 165 million years ago. I believe that Tyrannosaurus Rex was 65 million years ago, and that wasn't even the latest one. There was some like some 50 million years ago or something, and then we have some around 100 million years ago. We have the Triceratops at 225 million years ago, I believe, and we also had someone at 300 something million years ago. So it has taken multiple hundreds of millions of years for dinosaurs to die out. It was not on one day. But it's more like we have not seen any missing links between the Triceratops and rhinos from the Stone Age, for example. So it looks like that every dinosaur that went extinct just dated from like one day to another. There was not really any evolution. Well, there was a little bit, of course, because they lived for a long time. For example, the long naked dinosaurs that is known under many names. Oh yeah, for example, Gigantosaurus and Ultrasaurus and the Argentinosaurus. Just Google like one of these words and you will get the kind of the exact same picture, because they look alike. It is just mainly the size difference. But you will know what I'm talking about. But the long-legged dinosaurs. You probably know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the long legs. There have been again many species of that through time, so they have evolved a little bit inside the 20 to 30 meter, actually somewhere only like 15 meter. But yeah, it was still way bigger than any animals we have on land today. Like the highest animals we have on the land today are like 3 to 5 meters for the exceptionally big species. I'm talking about the giraffe and the elephant. And the rhino is kind of also up there, but in height the rhino cannot never beat the elephant and the giraffe, so they are definitely the highest we have. Tallest, what do I call it? Make more sense maybe. So what we are really missing a missing link in, well, if it wasn't missing it would not be a missing link. So it kind of looked like the dinosaurs just went extinct, and then every animal from today evolved from something else. Apart from, of course, the crocodile and alligator that is clearly evolved from some big lizards back in the dinosaurs' time. And it all. Oh, why can't I speak it out? Well, Uh, it's funny because the alligators and crocodiles are actually also very close related to birds. So that's maybe where they got the idea of that, or maybe that's an evidence by itself that the dinosaurs are kind of birds. But it's just strange because they don't look like birds at all, of course. And they look way more like, for example, the Triceratops look a lot like a lot more like a rhino than a bird, and the long-legged look a lot more like a giraffe or an elephant, kind of a mix between the two. Then it do look like a bird. So it's kind of strange, but maybe true. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. However, if it was the ancestor to the elephants and rhinos and so on, then there should be some missing links in between. But there have not really been anything health-sized. It's just oh my god, all the time. It just suddenly we ended up with the elephants and rhinos from the Stone Age. That size. But apart from having these hairy ancestors that was a little bit bigger than today, then we also got a lot other animals. We have a very interesting one. I should read here before I can kind of pronounce it. I think it's just like Glyptodon. It's kind of like an Amarillo, but at the same height as a human. And I'm not talking about the same height when if it can even stand on two legs, but if it stand on two legs and put the hands, or what you should call it, forelegs, up in the air, so you can try to stretch the long side of the animal. It's not like that. It's the same height as a human. It's like down on all four, and it just has the back up in the air. At that point, it's the same height as a human. Way over a meter in height. So that's amazing. So we're talking about like 3 meters in length, maybe up to that. So amazing animal. It's like it's actually, I think it's actually the same size as the Amarillo looking animals you saw in Ice Age movies. And they were already really big. They were actually, I think actually it is that animal. It is probably that animal that have tried to animate in the Ice Age movies. And again, the Ice Age movies are actually happening in the Stone Age. That's why they're called Ice Age, but not because Ice Age are an age that happened in the Stone Age, but we have 3 Ice Ages in the Stone Age, and they're of course the Ice Ages we know the most of, because every time we have an Ice Age, it's put on another layer on the Earth, and it gets harder and harder to discover things in the deeper layer. So the latest Ice Age and the things that happen after that is the thing we know the most of. But of course we know a lot about dinosaurs nowadays, so we can see. Oh my god, now we're having it. We can see back to before all the Ice Ages. So this was also from the Stone Age and living through some of the Ice Ages. I'm not sure when that one got extent. It's, I think it's before the mammoth, probably, because so much we have not heard about it, and it's not looking at all close to the animals we have today. Again, it is kind of an oh my god, it's happening all the time now. It's kind of an Amarillo, but it doesn't really look like the Amarillos we have today. But then we actually also have some other elephants. We have some non-hairy one, and of course between the ice ages, they lost their hair. So we kind of just had like, that's what I imagine. We had one species of elephants, and that one grew hair when the ice age came, and then when the ice age disappeared, it lost the hair, and that was mainly how elephant evolved through the time. But we had one called a mastodon that was kind of the same size as a mammoth, but just without hair. So that was probably before, well, at least before last ice age, where the mammoth also died out, or as we could also say, it evolved to the hairless elephants we know today. Actually, a mammoth is not so long away. It's like we just need to go into an ice age again, and then we automatically get the mammoth back, but because that's how nature works. So the only reason the mammoths don't exist anymore is because it's not cold enough. We have no really ice age right now, so the mammoth have just evolved to the elephants we have today. But of course, another thing that have happened is that the elephants are getting smaller today, and that's where the mastodon came into the picture, because the mastodon was the elephants before the mammoth came in this ice age, where it has the same size. It was big, it has not got small yet, and it was not because it got bigger in the ice age, it just got more hairy. It's just after the last ice age, it also got smaller for some reason. You probably don't know, I'm not sure about if you know it, but it, oh my god, so annoying. But need some lynch juice. That's an exciting fruit. Not so normal in the north, very exotic. More, I think, popular in Asia. I think all around Asia, not only East Asia, but also West Asia. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I hear it pronounced in many ways. It doesn't matter, as long as it tastes good. So I was interrupting myself because I was getting annoyed. I'm sure I have told it, but there's something about that the elephants was bigger back then and they got smaller. Oh yeah, of course. It's funny because it's like every animal are getting smaller today than it was in the prehistoric times. And what is our evidence the animals was bigger back then than bones? Bones is a very good evidence because bones is a hard material. It's you can't really cheat on that because you can take the bones out of living and well, you should not do that, but when you can take the animals from today and take their bones out when they die, and they have the size they have. And something that could happen with bones was that they have, if a bone have been in the ground for thousands of years, maybe it will get smaller, but it will definitely not get bigger, right? But the thing that happens is that the bones we take out of the animals from today are smaller than the bones we found in the ground. And again, it cannot grow bigger in the ground, so it has not got bigger because we have not found it from thousands of years. So we are pretty sure that animals were bigger back then. But it sounds like a coincidence that's too good to be true that every animal was bigger back then. And it looks like how long we get back, as bigger the animals get. Like in the Stone Age, they were bigger, just slightly. From hundreds of million years ago, they were a lot bigger. So that's strange, I think. I think it's probably not every animal that works like that. Some must have been smaller back then. Some must have gone bigger today, right? Or, well, I don't know why they should get smaller. I know that in the dinosaurs' prime time, it was very hot. And there's also one theory about how they got instinct that it got too cold. Which also makes sense because that's how the mammoth got extinct, you can say, because it was too cold to have hair, or too warm. That's the other way around. It was too warm, hot to have hair, so it disappeared. And maybe it was too cold to be a specific species of dinosaur, so therefore it disappeared. Went to something else, evolved to something else, maybe. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. It seemed like it disappeared out of nowhere. But maybe it couldn't survive the climate, whatever. But yeah, we had a lot of elephants through the Stone Age. They have evolved a lot. The Stone Age is also interesting because we have these 3 ice ages in the Stone Age. So the climate has actually changed. Well, if you count both ends, we have had 7 different climates in the Stone Age. Or not really different because they went to the same some, but the climate has changed 6 times. So through 7 different states. Like we start with no ice age, becoming ice age, then no ice age, no ice age, then the third ice age, and then no ice age again. So a lot of things could have happened, and a lot of things has happened. I think animals evolved quite a lot in the Stone Age, especially compared to like the dinosaurs' time. So I think the Stone Age was actually the point in time where animals evolved the most, because it was happening the most in the climate, which makes sense. That's mostly how it works. We got more animals from the Stone Age. We also had the saber-tooth tiger, and that's a very popular animal. But I think it's not very popular for being in the Stone Age. It's just popular for being what it is. But I'm not sure many people know it's actually from the Stone Age and lived at the same time as the mammoth. But again, in Ice Age, they do. So again, Ice Age is actually very scientific. Correct. I don't know what I was trying to fish after there, but we have mammoth, saber-tooth tiger, this funny Amarillo. I even think that the rhinos from Ice Age was hairy. Or at least they had some rhinos or some rhino looking animals. So Ice Age was actually very spot on in that regard. Had much of the right animals. Apart from the saber-tooth tiger, that was of course bigger than the tiger today, because again this happened, and it was bigger than the lions today. It was the biggest cat of the time, and maybe ever actually. At least some, like one of the species of saber-tooth tiger was the biggest cat we ever had. We also have a giant, I forgot the word when I was about to say, sloth, yeah, like that green bunch of snot you see in Ice Age. We have a giant version of that, and that was actually probably the one from the Ice Age, because if you look at it, it was quite big when you compare to the saber-tooth tiger and the mammoth. It was around the size of the saber-tooth tiger in Ice Age, if you would know it, and it was like a fifth of the height of the mammoth or something, which were around 5 meters in height. So it was a sloth that was like 1 meter in height and big, maybe bigger than that. So that makes sense, because that's kind of how the giant sloth was. Actually, can I see how big it was actually? I have forgot. It's called the Megatherium. Yeah. That's actually very cool. Oh, it looks very big on that picture. I think it was even bigger than I thought. It was living in South America, apparently. In a lot of Chile, I can see. But what about the height? It's actually funny because we have two species of sloth today. We have one with 3 fingers and one with 2 fingers. I believe the 3 finger one is the most popular. The 3 finger was at least the first one I really saw. And it's funny because they look like each other in every single way. Like you could really not see a difference about them if you don't look at the fingers. Oh, it weighed like 4.5 tons. Imagine a sloth weighing 4,500 kilos. And it was like 5 meters and maybe even more than that. Oh, it was way bigger than I thought. It's actually the size of a mammoth. So actually Ice Age was not correct. It should be even bigger than the one from Ice Age. Oh my god, that's amazing. I didn't knew that. If I have ever knew that before, I will probably have remembered that because that's an amazing fact. But what I was talking about, but this, the 2 living sloths from today, which mainly have one different, that they look like these respectively. That's the only difference. You have really to count the toes. So you will think that is the only difference. And one of them probably just evolved a 3rd toe because it needed that to grab around the type of tree that was in that area it moved to. Or the other one lost a toe because it didn't need it to grab around that tree that was in that area it moved to. But that actually not even close to what happened because they are not very close related in any regard. I don't remember. We have to go very long back. Yeah, I think it was like we had one fellow ancestor to the sloth very long back, and that one evolved into a lot of other species, like 5 to 10, which evolved into another bunch of species, and that happened like 4 or 5 times before we ended up with only the 2 we have today. So we have to go very many generations of species back to find a common ancestor to the sloth today. Either that was the case, or then they actually evolved from different animals. Like, for example, I think it was dogs that actually evolved from whales. Sounds amazing, but kind of whales that crawled up on land and grew feet, and at some point in time that became dogs. I believe that was the case, but then it was like another animal or something. It was something about whales crawling up on water, so actually some animals are related to whales in some way or another. So if you talk like in that regards, it's like maybe it was a whale that became the 3-toed and a shark that became the 2-toed or something like that. If you imagine that a whole different animal evolved into becoming something that looks very close related. I think maybe that was the thing that happened. I'm not sure. There's something saying it was the first thing I was talking about, and something in me says it was the second one. Either they have a common ancestor that's just many generations back, or then they don't even have a common ancestor at all, but they came from 2 totally different animals and coincidentally ended up looking very close to each other like they do today. No matter what, they are not close related in any regard. They are very long from each other, genus wise. but they look very identical. There's almost no animals that look more identical. Think about crocodiles and alligators. They look kind of identical, but you can see a difference. And it's not just one toe you have to count to see a difference, but it's more clear than that. But actually, even better than that, if you go into the crocodile species alone, so into that single animal, if you look inside the species of that single animal, they look way different inside that species than the two species of sloth looks like each other today. So it's amazing that they're not related, actually, or they're at least not close related. They're either not related or not close related. So that's interesting. We also have some prehistoric wolf. There's not so much to say about that. It was bigger, and in the Ice Age it was more heavy, and a wolf is already very heavy. So imagine even more heavy than that. Then we also have some deers, and well, they were bigger. That's kind of the theme going on for today. But more exciting than the deers, we actually had an what is called and moose, which are kind of the biggest type of deer. I'm not sure deer are the overall type in English, but you know all these animals that looks like deers. Then we have the biggest one is the moose, and we had one back in the Stone Age too. That was also even bigger. So imagine not just a bigger deer, but imagine the biggest moose that had ever lived on Earth. That's a big animal, and we probably hunted that. I don't want to hunt that animal. I just want to run away from that animal, to be honest. So, and what do we else have on the Stone Age? Well, we actually have quite a funny lion too. It's called the marsupial lion. Or it's probably kind of from Latin, so it's probably called like marsupial lion or something. At least one of the things I called it was probably the right thing to call it. And it's not because there's so much to say about it. Well, there probably was. I have read a lot about it, but I have not. So I can only say what I know about it, of course. But it's not like a significantly big lion, or it doesn't have any significant other features, but it looks quite funny. So it's worth a Google search, that's to be sure. It was around 1 meter in height at the biggest. So kind of a big cat still, but again not the biggest one. And then we also had some big snakes back then. There was a lot of pythons, and probably a species of African rock python that was bigger than the African rock pythons from today, which are normally around 5 meters in length. And the biggest snake today are the anaconda at 9 meters in length normally. There have been reports of maybe, anacondas up to 17 meters, but it's have not really been clear how true they were. However, in the Stone Age, that was quite a normal length for a snake to be like 17 meters. And that also means they were a lot wider and could easily swallow a human or humanid ancestor in one mouth. Of course, they only swallow things in one mouth because they have no teeth at all, actually. So they could not do anything else. But African rock python is actually like the one we have today. Even the one we have today are actually very agile in their mouth, if you can say so. Elastic, stretchy, and they can actually split their mouth not only this way but also like this, like an alien. So they can split their mouth in the middle and split it in four path if they really want to. So even a rock python today at 5 meters in length can actually swallow a human full size. So it was quite easy for a rock python at 3 times the length back in the Stone Age to do the same, of course. And they grew that big back in the Stone Age. Of course, the snakes also got bigger back then. And I'm not sure about the Titanoboa. I think that lived. I think that's actually like 50 or 60 million years ago that lived. And that was. Well, we have found one bone from that animal, what we know of at least. And when we look at that specific bone, it looks like that specific snake has been 33 meters in length. And imagine that's not even necessarily the biggest one. That's just the only one we have ever found. It could be a small one or average size. An average size can mean a lot of things because how long did they grow? Was it plus minus 1 meter or like plus minus 20 meters they grew in size? So maybe there have been snakes that was more than 50 meters, more than 55 meters even in length. Maybe they varied from 15 to 55 meters, or maybe they varied from 30 to 40 meters. Who knows? We only found one, apparently. But it was a very big one. But thankfully that was millions of years before humans. So in human time they were only like 15 to 17 meters in length. Not so bad. Oh, this is still very bad. It kind of make no difference if it was twice the size because it could easily swallow us anyway. So it's only topping off the scary meter if it was twice the size of that. It's interesting to think about that we have actually lived at the same time as such a big snake. Like the Titanoboa was one thing, but it's so long ago, and it's way before humans. It's before apes as a whole, I actually think. So it's kind of it's so far away that you cannot really feel it. But when you think about the early rock pythons and think about how they were actually living at the same time as us, they have just thankfully got extinct now. But they were not extinct when we started living here on Earth. So that feels a lot more amazing to think about. I can really feel that I'm meeting that in the real life when I'm thinking about that. I could actually have done that if it was a couple of thousand of generations before I am now. So that's very interesting. That's some of the most interesting animals I can think about from that time. I really love snakes in the fascinating kind of love. I think very interesting animals. And also this pythons from the Stone Age was probably some of the, if not the most dangerous animal we could encounter. Well, we have the saber-tooth tiger too, that was also very shit, and all the lions too. And we also have a bear that was like the old cave bear that was even bigger than the the polar bear from today. So that's scary. Also because the bears are the only animals that kind of just hunts for fun, no matter how not hungry they are. It's like a hobby to them. It's the only animal that just have it as a hobby. So to have such a big one, and then a cave one because it mostly lived in caves. But we also lived in caves. So imagine we find a new home, but we just have to check out if the most dangerous animal on Earth is inside that home. It's like every time we should move to a new home, we should check for the most dangerous animal in the world if there was in there before we settle down. And even when we settle down, are you sure the most dangerous animal in the world are not living in the same home as you? It could be out walking, hunting, and then it could come home and find you there in its own home. That's also interesting and scary to think about. Actually, the Stone Age was a very scary time, and in many ways, I'm happy I didn't live in the Stone Age. But if I should live in the Stone Age, I really want to live in the late part of the Stone Age, where we discovered the metals and was able to make a hammer like this instead of just a stone. Because I also love metals, and metals can be pretty beautiful. Oh yeah. Is there more animals I want to talk about? Yeah, there is actually more animals I want to talk about. We also had, of course, prehistoric cow, because we started drinking milk in the Stone Age. When you talk about drink, I have to drink my juice. Oh yeah. We started drinking milk in the Stone Age, and that means there must have been some cows, right? And there were, and of course, according to the theme of today, they were bigger than the cows today. But that's not even the most interesting fact about them. That is that every cow species from today. When I say cows, cow species, I'm talking about cows, bulls, well that makes sense, it's just male, but also bisons, muscus, water buffaloes, well, normal buffalo, all of these included are coming from the same single species of cow ancestor from the Stone Age. And that was the one we milked. Do you call that? Oh yeah, the first. So that's very interesting. At the point in time where humans started interacting with cows, there were only one species, and now we have a lot. So why is that happening? Why did that happen? You may ask. I don't know. I have not read so much about it, so I don't know if we have evidence for anything, but I'm pretty sure it was because of humans. Because a fact of today is that there do not live wild cows today, because every single cow that have lived the last hundreds of years has been inside the walls of humans' makings. And it's probably also humans that have made the different types of cows. You have probably mated the cows in every single direction possible. Imagine a cow is probably the most farmed animal on Earth, and also for the longest period of time. And we both eat it and drink its milk. There's mostly not any other animal we do the same with. And of course, not near in that amount we do it with cows. So we have most probably done something with it and made it evolve in a lot of different directions according to if you need milk or meat or anything else what you could use a cow for other than that. Oh my god, now it happens again. And of course we also had some prehistoric pigs at the time They were also bigger, some of them at least. I'm not sure how many types of pigs we have actually. Maybe we only had one. But it was mostly like the warhogs of today. Like the wild. But have we actually have wild pigs? Do we today? Or is wild pig just a term we used for the pigs with hair because they look more natural, so it fits to call them wild? Is it actually a lie when you say meat comes from wild pigs? I have to look up that because I was actually pretty sure that every pig in the world was also enclosure like cows, but maybe not. And I think the same about chickens. I don't think there's exists a wild chicken today. Hmm. I should research that actually. I'm getting quite curious now. Not only about how many animals that only exist in enclosure now, but also about how many lies there actually is in the industry of foods nowadays. However, I'm not sure about chickens actually. When if that exists in the Stone Age or how it was with that. I know that we started eating eggs in the Stone Age, but that was like snake eggs and eggs from other birds and stuff. Just like every egg we could find, like reptile eggs of every kind and so on. Oh my god, today. So, I'm not sure about the chickens. We did eat eggs from a lot of different animals. We started eating pigs and cows, and we started farming pigs and cows in the Stone Age. And they evolved into a lot of different type of things. So, I think that was the most significant animals from the Stone Age. I've tried to talk about the animals we don't have today, or the animals that are very different today. So the animals we have today is looking the same today. I'm not mentioning that. But I'm not sure I have missed some. I have probably missed some animals, but that has been what I know of significant different animals from the Stone Age. I should look, but oh, that's a good time. So, well, I guess I can probably end it here with that conclusion, if you can call it a conclusion. With that statement, whatever. Well, I've been talking about a lot of different animals and forth back and forth or whatever, and I have been a little bit off topic, but most of the time I have actually been keeping talking about animals and not other stuff, not been relating many times out in nothingness as I usually do. So I hope you find it interesting and learn something about the animals from the Stone Age, or maybe just about, well, I actually don't know what else, because I don't remember. I have been going off topics like for real, so I don't know what else you could have learned about. You could always learn about my way of thinking, of course, but well, probably have learned about that already from other videos. Well, this is not the best one anyway, so but at least I hope you find some of it interesting or got a good laugh or something. And if you really like the video, consider subscribing for more of these videos, maybe more of the Stone Age. You can see my previous 4 videos about the Stone Age if you haven't done that. And maybe, but only maybe, I will do more videos about the Stone Age later. So subscribe for that if you want to see more, and eventually you will find out if I do more or not. Or else you can see my other videos about the inside of my head where I discuss also other topics. I've already discussed a lot of different topics you can look at. Or else you can look at the other things I do on my channel. I have gaming videos, travel vlogs, unboxing, tech reviews, and probably a lot of other different stuff. I don't know anymore. I don't remember. So check it out and see if there's something you like. There probably is. Or else you think it's all shit, whatever. I guess you can like this video too if you like it that much. And I guess I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.